should note there's a famous spring on Haida Gwaii called St. Mary's that Susan could also tell you about. One sip is said to ensure your return to the islands. And twice I've drunk, and twice I've returned. During my second visit, I rented another off-the-grid cabin, this time the Empress. The idea to return occurred during an evening spent breathing polluted air in India, where I'd been traveling for 6 months. So these next couple poems are about India. I have time. Okay. Between the planks. There is a gap between here and there, between a dust-filled street in a dusty subcontinent and a cedar plank cottage in a west coast rainforest. There is a gap unchinked by hours of buses, planes, boats, by all those liters of fuel evaporated. It all trails behind me, clunking along like a string of tin cans on a newlywed's car. All those bodies of water, swaths of land, and this plank of western red cedar. I run my hand along its grain, and I remember the faces, airport officials, ticket sellers, chai vendors, and that little boy standing by a pile of garbage on the side of the road where the buses pulled in, holding up torn trousers with one hand, all that suffering bunched up in his palm. The bus drove away, the plane took off, the boat sailed, and there is a gap between here and there. I can feel it blowing between the planks, cool as a northwest wind in a west coast rainforest. And another India poem. It's called The Varanasi Drafts. I just need a sip of water before I read it. Giuseppe, are you falling asleep back there? That's my husband. He's heard these poems a lot. The Varanasi Drafts. It's sunset and I'm drinking chai at Vishnu Rest House, milky and sweet. The couple to my left is speaking Japanese, to my right, Spanish. We face the Ganges, the Ganga, if you want to sound more Indian. If you want to look more Indian, I'd recommend ditching the khakis, cotton t-shirt, and hiking boots. I've opted for a silk fuchsia salwar kameez and golden bangles and a flimsy pair of flip-flops. I think that's why I got a better room rate. It's sunset and the tourists are going for rides and wooden fishing boats rowed by young boys and old men. They're going to the cremation ghats. I can see the fires now, and every time the wind shifts, I can smell the burning flesh. The smell isn't as unpleasant as I'd imagined it would be. One of the oarsmen told me that he rows to the cremation ghats when he's depressed. He said, the sound of bones popping in the heat comforts me. It's sunset, and on the opposite shore, the Bollywood film crew is firing up the set lights. They film until late into the night. They have erected small thatched huts and campfire pits. Amidst the huts wander an assortment of holy men, some smeared in ash, some in cantaloupe-colored sarongs, others in white loincloths. It's difficult to know whether they're real or actors, except during a dance number. It's sunset and I'm watching for dolphins. Even though the Ganga is polluted, there are rumors of river dolphins. Yesterday I think I saw one, though it could have been a body part, a charred arm. Sometimes at the cremation ghats, parts find their way into the river, but this object seemed to do a little jump. I'm sure I saw a splash. It's sunset and the rooftops are filled with young boys and old men flying kites, tissue paper, wooden frames, string, the whole kit for 20 cents. Brightly colored diamonds jerk their way upwards, some plummet into Bodhi tree branches, others catch an airstream, and they soar to the rising moon. It's sunset and the swallows are flying downriver in swarms. They skim the surface, swallowing mosquitoes whole. They swoop through the porticos of the Maharaja's palace. They swoop and pirouette and swoop some more. There must be some music playing that they swoop to with such grace, but I can't hear it. On cue, they tilt their wings to the right, fly right above our heads. The Japanese, the Spanish, and I stop drinking tea. We crane our heads to ogle at thousands of ochre-colored bellies streaming towards the setting sun like iron filings to a magnet. There's a sensation on my skin, a soft, warm puff of air, a tingling, and then they're gone. My third visit to Haida Gwaii has extended into 2 years. I now live in a cabin called the Spare Girl. It was built and named by someone that Susan's going to talk about next, Paul Bauer. Is his name?
Yeah, it's his name.
Good. Right now I work part-time at a transition house for women escaping violence and addictions. That's about 16 kilometers away in Masset. Because of my work there, I've had the privilege of getting to know several members of the Haida community. They've taken to calling me Haida Girl, which kind of goes with the Spare Girl. This next poem is the story of a researcher and the 74 Club, a group of what some people may call the town drunks. Does anybody know what 74 is?
Yes.
What is it, Susan?
Sherry? Yeah,
Cheap sherry.
very cheep.
Very
Yeah.
$7.95 a bottle.
Yeah. Oh,
I bought some.
I've been asked to buy it for people and before, oh,
It's terrible.
Yeah.
Anyway, but I know these guys as brother, nephew, and uncle to the women I work with. These guys spend a lot of time outside, and I think sometimes they see what many of us miss. The checks in the first line refer to the infamous Welfare Wednesday checks. The researcher. The checks came in today. A small crowd gathers outside Mile Zero pub to watch the ravens rip open a bag of potatoes, to watch her chain her bike to a cedar pole. She knows what they're thinking. City girl, no need to lock things round here. Her mother once told her, it's good to give people a chance to be honest. But she doesn't trust them. They look through her as though she's as small and translucent as a herring's egg. And they look at the pole as though it's carved in the image of Great Bear Mother, and she has just chained its womb closed. But they've probably had too many jugs of sherry to notice people like her, or to know that they totter on the western rim of North America's continental shelf, on one of 150 islands where unique and endemic species, subspecies, and varieties of flora and fauna thrive. C. martensia, kinnikinnick, beach pea, cloudberry, large-headed sedge. If they knew, surely they would weave baskets of spruce root and hurry to gather their winter stores, instead of standing here at Mile Zero, watching scavenger birds play tug-of-war with grease-smeared shreds of foil. She walks towards them, smiles gently, tries to make contact. But still they look through her, to the ravens taking flight, silver ribbons dangling from their beaks. And they look to the pole, its yowling maw biting open the sky.